Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. Thank you for tuning in again this week, watching us on the YouTube channel, listening to us on iTunes or Google Play, as well as 93.9 The Ville. With me is a longtime friend of mine. He is a legendary breeder and owner, Arthur Hancock III from Stone Farm in Paris, Kentucky, who joins us now. Arthur, glad to have you on the show. How are you?
Well, good morning, Kenny. I'm fine. I hope you are.
Life is good, and it has been for many years for you and Stone Farm and Gato Del Sol, the 82 Derby champ, and Sunday Silence, the Derby and Preakness winner, and win the Breeders' Cup Classic, two of your better-known horses. But it's been a career that you have built and following in your father's legendary footsteps. Did you ever feel pressure along the way, Arthur, to do well in this business?
Well, yeah, sort of, in the early days I did, and that's one of the reasons, I decided to strike out and start my own farm and leave Claiborne. Maybe part of that was because of the pressure, but I sort of wanted to see what I could do on my own, and but after that, really, no, not really any pressure. I just did the best I could. It's a 24/7 job, and there's a whole lot of downs with it as well as the ups, as they say. There are a lot of valleys along with the peaks, but if you, like anything else, if you enjoy what you're doing, it's not so much like work. So it's been a good run, and we've been fortunate to have bred and raised some good horses, not only for ourselves, but some of our clients, like this year, Bricks and Mortar, for instance.
I was going to say, a pretty good horse you got there in Bricks and Mortar. Some think he might be the best running out there right now.
Yeah, he was, he was a good-looking yearling, good-looking foal, good-looking yearling, and we sold him at Keeneland, and he's done great, and I'm hoping he'll keep going, maybe be Horse of the Year if everything goes well.
As far as, what I've always fascinated about the breeding business, and experts, which I consider you one of, and other guys I've talked to, no matter how much you figure this is going to work, there's still, that big question of, will it really work? Will this breeding of this stallion to this mare, is it going to work? And I find that fascinating always, how you put it together to try to figure out what's the best scenario for a breeder.
But you know what the definition of an expert is, Kenny?
Yeah, I believe I do.
Well, it's a person who knows more and more about less and less until he knows absolutely everything about nothing. So I think with the breeding, you just as the old fella said years ago, you pays your money and takes your chances, and you pick. You based on temperament, speed, size, all those things, and pedigree, nicks, you take your best shot, and as they say, my dad used to say, breed the best of the best and hope for the best.
And it worked well for him, the legendary bull Hancock of Claiborne Farm, and it's worked well for you. I mean, even like Fusa Icy Pegasus, Risen Star, a couple other outstanding horses that you were part of the breeding process that I guess you consider them your horses, even though they're not, you sold them, they're not your horses, but it was very much a part of Stone Farm and Arthur Hancock.
Well, it's kind of like raising a child or something, see them go out and do something. Yeah, they're part of the family, really, even though when you sell them, someone else owns them. You remember the days when they were foaled and they were raised as little fillies or colts, and then went out there and did something. They never leave you. It's part of you and part of your life and part of what you do,
And right now, you've not shown any signs of slowing down. As you mentioned, Bricks and Mortar, bred by Stone Farm, out there on the track, just burning it up. No signs of slowing down for you, Arthur.
I still go 7 days a week, and I like what I'm doing, and thank God I'm in pretty good health, and so I'm kind of like Charlie Whittingham. He said, I'll be training horses till the day I die, and I guess I'll be living on the farm trying to raise another good horse till the day I'm out of here.
And I want to ask you about the way that the industry is now. There's more money than ever before out there. $1 million races are common, and there's some incredible money with some of these super races that they're having now putting together. But yet there's fewer foals out there. The foal crop's half of what it was 30 years ago. And you do have races at big tracks where you have maybe 4 or 5 horse fields that you wouldn't think of in the past. Is there a reason that there's fewer horses being bred with the money that's out there?
Well, I don't think there are as many, owners that like there used to be. You used to have the Vanderbilts and the Whitneys and all those big breeders in it. And they're not here anymore. And I don't know the answer to that, frankly, really. That's the only thing I can come up with.
No, that makes sense to me. And, partnerships are, there's so many partnerships out there now, which I think has been one of the huge changes in the sport, that, there's people that can pool money together that don't really have to breed the horse. They can just buy into the horse. I think that might have a lot to do with it as well.
Well, that's right. And like I say, those people they'd have farms or they'd board their mares with a farm. And so I believe there were more horses being produced when those kind of families were involved in it. And now it's mostly, I think you're right. They have the partnerships, they have the buyers are out there. The sales are still going pretty good, but maybe that has something to do with it. There just aren't as many breeders around as there were.
Tom, with Arthur Hancock III, Stone Farm in Paris, Kentucky, of course, carrying on the tradition of his grandfather and his father, and he's won 2 Kentucky Derbies. He's bred some outstanding horses and continues to do so. And, Sunday Silence, I guess, if you're identified with one horse, it would be Sunday Silence, wouldn't it, Arthur? And I know what a special horse he was and so much fun for me to cover throughout his Triple Crown run onto the Breeders' Cup Classic win.
Well, he was a special horse, no question. And, back when the crash came back in '88, and if it hadn't been for Sunday Silence, I don't know what I'd be doing, because we probably would have lost the farm. So thank God he came along, and he always will have a very special place in my heart.
Wow, he saved the farm. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, we acquired a lot of debt, a lot of land, and then the bottom fell out in '88. What was worth $1 was worth 30 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Owed a lot of money, and there came Sunday Silence, and, it was sort of like a miracle to happen. It was really very special.
His whole story is special, isn't it? He survives a van wreck, and if you looked at him, you would not say this is the best looking horse that Arthur Hancock has ever seen, but except when he started running.
No, he was a foal. A lot of people thought he was ugly. He didn't sell for anything out there, $17,000. I bought him back for the Tom Tatham, who was the guy who owned him, and took him the ticket back behind the Keeneland Sales Pavilion and said, I bought him back for you. He went too cheap. And he looked at the ticket, looked at me and said, well, we don't want him because our advisor doesn't like him. And I stuck the ticket in my shirt pocket and said, okay. And then I remember thinking, well, I guess I just blew another $17,000. and that was Sunday Silence. So we were very lucky, very fortunate. It all turned out very, very blessed, really.
And, he was so special in so many ways. And, and with Charlie Whittingham, the legendary trainer, and you and Sunday Silence, I think for anybody that covered that and got to be around you guys, that was such a fun Triple Crown run. Winning helped, of course, but, it was a fun time all the way through.
It was a fun time, and maybe that's why we keep working so hard. We're trying to do it again.
Do you think that Derby again? I guess that's what every Kentucky guy, any breeder, I want to win the Derby. When you say that's still the race that most breeders want to have a part of, that they had a Derby bred horse or they own part of a Derby horse?
Well, I think especially if you're a Kentuckian, it's that was what I wanted to do. Is all my life was win the Kentucky Derby, and I remember when I left Claiborne, sitting on a porch of this little house I lived in, and I thought, well, maybe by the time I'm 75, if I'm lucky, I'll have a horse in the Derby. Maybe I'll get lucky, and we got lucky earlier than that. But I'm 76 now, and it'd be nice to try to go down there again with one. We had one this year, Roadster,
Right.
who won the Santa Anita Derby, but he didn't like that mud down there, and it just didn't work out. But that happens, It's you got to have everything going your way. You got to be really lucky to even get there, and then to run a good race.
I believe I'm remembering this story well. It was 1982, Gato Del Sol, way outside in the post position draw. No one had won from outside there. And you being the Vanderbilt University graduate, I believe, did you call someone, I think at Vandy, and some kind of engineer, and they figured out the actual course to get to that first turn was not as far as it seemed to be in terms that your horse would be in good shape coming that far outside?
Yeah, no, we drew the outside post, and everybody at the draw said, oh, gosh, that's such a tough break, and no horse had ever won from the outside gate, and we were real depressed, came back home, and I was just sitting there thinking, what in the world is so bad about being out there? And I had a vague recollection from my Vanderbilt geometry that you could find the distance, something about the hypotenuse of a right angle triangle, but I didn't remember it. And I called my buddy Paul Sullivan, who's a lawyer here in Lexington, and they used to call him the math whiz. And so he said, yeah, he said, how far are you out? How far is the gate from the rail? And I told him we were about 20 stalls out, about 4 feet a stall, 80 feet. And he said, how far is it to the turn? Do you know? I said, it's exactly 1.25 miles. He did some figuring, and I forget the formula now, but I think you take the square root of the base plus the height squared, and it gives you the distance of the hypotenuse, which is the distance he had to go from that outside gate, to the turn. And he said, you know how much you lose? And I said, no, probably 10 lengths. I mean, we're cooked. There's no hope. He said, Arthur, you lose 2.4 feet. And I said, what? He said, let me refigure this. So he refigured it and said it's 2.4 feet. And he said, that's all you lose. He said, now, that is assuming you don't come rushing into the rail, stay out there and angle in. So that's what we told Eddie Delahousie, stay out there. I told Eddie, he's from Louisiana. I said, Eddie, just put that horse's ears on the turn down there, and don't come in like you're plowing a field when you put the muffler of a tractor on a distant tree. You can go in a straight line. And I said, just hang out there, and we won't lose but 2.4 feet. And I told Eddie Gregson about that, the trainer, and he was astounded. He said we probably lose a minimum of 5 lengths, maybe 7 or 8. So, that's what happened. And of course, we were lucky to have a fast pace in the race, but still being out there and staying behind and not losing that ground, he came flying in the stretch, and he won the Kentucky Derby. And I mean, it was like, man, that was an out-of-body experience, just unbelievable.
Oh, I remember it well. See, look at this. All these years, I remember you telling me this story. I don't know if you remember it when I was doing local news in Lexington, and you told me that story before the Kentucky Derby, that this is...
Yeah.
Because I was like you. I thought, geez, you're out of it, man. I thought it'd be 12 or 14 lengths. I didn't have a clue. It just seemed so far out there. But then again, physics and geometry and all were not my specialties, Arthur.
Well, I got a D in the course. That's why I didn't remember what it was. but I did have the vague recollection, and Paul was good at it. And Eddie Gregson, the trainer, he was a very smart guy. He was a Phi Beta Kappa at Stanford. And he said, well, we're going to lose a minimum of 5 lengths and maybe 7 or 8. He said, we can't overcome it either way. And that's when I told Eddie Gregson I told him what we had done, what Paul had figured out. And he said, is that right? And, and he looked at it, and then he said, well, I'm okay. So he called Eddie Delahousie right then, and we got excited about it. The horse was 21-1. He paid $44.
Yeah.
So we all made some pretty good bets on that, and it was a big day. It was a fun day, and my life's dream had come true, and it was just really something.
With Sunday Silence, it was a little different, right? Because you come into the Derby now, you're not a long shot. People knew Sunday Silence, and Charlie Whittingham was kind of rejuvenated, wasn't he? Just 3 years earlier, he'd won with Ferdinand his first Derby, and you're a Derby veteran now by this stage.
Yeah, well, everybody thought Easy Gore was going to beat Sunday Silence.
Yep, great rivalry.
Did. All the Eastern press was for him, and I remember when Sunday Silence worked down there, he went a half in 46, which is a pretty fast time, and all the reporters said, "Oh, Mr. Whittingham, he went too fast, didn't he?" And Charlie said, "No, he did okay." And they said, "Well, that's awfully fast, Mr. Whittingham." He said, "He did fine." We were walking back to the barn, and I said, "Charlie, what do you think?" And he said, "My boy, we will get the money Saturday." I said, "Charlie, you really think we can beat Easy Gore?" He said, "My boy, we will get the money."
Well, you never went against Charlie Whittingham, did you? When he said something.
No, he said a good horse will work that fast, no problem. And, later in the year, Sunday Silence worked a mile in 1:33 out there at Del Mar. He was really a great horse. He was a really good horse. And he beat a great horse in Easy Gore 3 out of the 4 times they ran.
Yeah, great rivalry. I mean, one of the better rivalries in the last 30 years or more.
Yeah, I've had people tell me over the years, and I agree that Preakness was maybe the best race they'd ever seen.
Yeah, that'd have to be in, I think any of us that saw that and others, that'd have to be in about everybody's top 10 for sure of all the races over all the time, and Breeders' Cup races and Triple Crowns. That was a tremendous, maybe the best Preakness, most exciting Preakness finish I can remember.
Yeah, that's what of course I thought that, but so many people have said that over the years, and but it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. I remember when Gato was coming up to the Derby, you were the first person to come out the farm, and
yeah,
you were young and broadcasted, and we did an interview and had a lot of fun. I can still remember when you imitated Count Dracula with that smile of yours, but I want you to do it on TV again one of these days.
I got to. That was our Halloween special. I remember that. Which, something else among the many great conversations that Arthur and I have had over the years, on camera and off camera. I remember you told me a long time ago, when I was still learning a lot about the business, friends ask me this today, and I give them this analogy, like they asked me about Justify, why he didn't stay on the track and things like that. I said, Arthur Hancock III told me a long time ago that it's like the song business. If you're a singer, you're going to make some money. You have a hit record. But if you're the guy that writes the song, you're the songwriter, you're going to get those residuals for many years. And that's, I think, still the best analogy of, should I keep the horse running on the track or put him in the breeding shed where those residuals are going to go on for years?
Well, sure. If you're fortunate enough to get a good horse that can go to be a stallion, then that's how you pay your bills on the farm. You can. That's one way. And with Sunday Silence, though, nobody wanted to breed to him.
Yeah.
Because they thought he was a freak and a fluke. And we had like 3 people that would take shares in him, and only 2 people that wanted breeding contracts. And my brother Seth told me he already had 50 contracts to Easy Gore down there at Claiborne. And the Japanese made us an offer, and with all the debt we had and everything, and nobody interested in breeding, we sold him. And I always say we didn't sell him. The American breeders just didn't accept him, didn't want to breed to him. So we had to, no question.
And the Sunday Silence influence is certainly still being felt.
Oh, in Japan, he's the best thing ever happened over there.
Yeah, he made their racing for the most part.
Made it, put him on the world stage. And they're smart, though. They were smart to buy him. And, he was a great horse, and he made a great, great stallion. And his sons are doing great at stud, too.
Well, I mentioned that songwriting analogy because you're the only, now I'm not saying there aren't others, but you're the only one I personally know who has owned and bred Kentucky Derby winners and written songs for Willie Nelson and Ray Price, two legends in the music business, and also have recorded your own album.
Yeah, we've done a couple of CDs, and my son and I did one, a bluegrass one, and Ray cut two songs I wrote, and then he and Willie cut that Run That By Me One More Time. And
that's a classic.
Grandpa Jones did three of them, and did one of them on Hee Haw. And so it's something I've always liked. It almost went into it, but I figured if I had a song in me to write, I could do it on the farm when I was raising horses. And but that's been a lot of fun, and I've known a lot of great people in the music business, and I cherish all those memories.
Writing a song, is that tougher than putting together a good breeding?
Well, I don't know. It's
writing a good song.
Yeah, I would say it is, sure. Well, I've never really written a really good song, but I have bred a pretty good horse, and so I don't know. It's hard to say. You just do you do your best and hope for the best at whatever you do. And the harder you work at something, the better you get at it, I think. And my work's been in horses, and I've worked at songs too because I love that part of it, but it's hard to compare it. You're just very fortunate if you get a good song or a good horse, right?
I think so, and one day we'll get you to come into our studio here because we have a guitar hanging that people say that watch us on YouTube. What's that guitar there? And I said someday we're going to get somebody in here that actually can play and sing. So one day we'll get you in the studio and we'll do some. Well, I won't do anything. I'll sit here and enjoy it. From the album Sunday Silence, which I still have, by the way. I still have the CD.
Really? Yeah, well, there's I wrote a song about Sunday Silence, and here comes Sunday Silence again. And it's actually Peter Rowan told me last week that he may record that. Peter's a friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
Actually, when I was at Vandy, he was the lead singer for Bill Monroe, and we got to be friends. We've been friends for over, 50 years. And so I hope he does because he's really good, got a good voice and everything. And actually, Larry Rice, who is, I guess, no kin to you, but he did record Sunday Silence.
Right. I'm no kin to Larry or Tony or any musical Rices.
Yeah, they're brothers. And Larry passed away, but and Tony, of course, a great guitar player and a great singer till he lost his voice. But well, you can imitate Dracula, so you can do that. I've seen that.
Well, you write one of those songs, and I'll pop in and do a quick voiceover, and then I'll step away from the mic and get out of the way of the real musicians. How's that?
All right. Well, if I ever get up there, I'll do Here Comes Sunday Silence again.
Hey, Arthur, it's great to have you on the show. Congratulations on all the success. I've always appreciated our friendship, and congratulations on Bricks and Mortar as the Stone Farm legacy continues on now. Good gracious, going into 4 decades of success on the farm.
Well, thank you, Kenny. I've always appreciated you and our friendship, and it's really great to talk to you, and keep up all the good things that you're doing.
All right, we'll catch up again. Thank you, Arthur Hancock III from Stone Farm in Paris, Kentucky. And more on the Horse Racing Show when we come back.